I was curious, is there any specific platforms that somebody could go to find visual artists? Because most music producers really struggle to find.
Yeah, so there is a plethora of ways to go about this. So you can go on this website if you're really like at the low.
Hey guys, welcome to the Industry Set podcast, where we interview high caliber artists and discuss all things music marketing, branding, networking, creating opportunities for yourself, production, productivity, and much more. And so if you are a music producer and you're looking to level up in all these areas, then be sure to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel below so you don't miss out on future episodes. And also on top of that, there is a link in our description where you can put in your email, sign up there, and we'll send you a bunch of free resources in terms of how to get your music label ready and how to get your artist brand tour ready. And so for today's episode, we interviewed Ray Elemento, and I've been friends with Ray ever since we went to high school together. We both started off in two different creative fields. His was more on the visual aspect of things, mine was more music production. We eventually teamed up as I noticed he was improving in terms of his visual stuff, where he just started his journey only a couple of years ago. And he was just getting so much better, so much faster, and it was really down the alley of what I wanted a visual representation of for my accent brand. And so after working together for a couple of years, he then started getting noticed by a lot of other artists, and including Subtronics, which I introduced him to. And that conversation then led to Ray now being the head director of the visual side for Subtronics' brand. And now he's also working with a lot of other high-tier artists like Marshmello, REZZ, a bunch of others that I can't actually list, but he's absolutely killing it, not only in electronic dance music, but also in a lot of other genres and styles as well. And so in this podcast, we covered a lot of interesting topics, contrasting the difference between creatives in both sides of the industry, and what to look for when wanting to work with a visual artist, how to get prepared for it, what to do if you're a visual artist and you're wanting to start up and get clients and work your way up, what kind of mindset you need to have. And although it's a lot of information on that regard, it applies to both sides of the industry as a creative. We also covered some interesting insight on Ray's perspective on how AI is impacting the creative industry, especially in the visual side. So if you've ever been curious about what's going on there, we've got you covered. This is a really insightful podcast, probably the best one that I've ever done, and I hope you all get a lot of value out of it, because I certainly did. That being said, let's get into it.
So considering you're the first person on this podcast that is not a music producer, this is obviously going to deviate a different kind of way, but I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value out of hearing like a visual designer, who's at an elite level, like their perspective on the industry and the ins and outs of that, which I think was going to be very valuable. So to get into it, I just want to start by you just fleshing out a bit about your origin story and how you got into doing what you're doing and some of the hardships that you've encountered along the way and how you got through those things.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, when I was back in Perth, I was stuck. I was doing a government job. So I'm just gonna be straight out. It was I was doing a government job just to pay off debts, because I was dancing for a few years, and then just I was financially not stable, so I was just paying off debts. But once I paid off my debts, me and a bunch of friends just came to a conclusion that we were kind of semi in the rut. Everyone was getting married, and we wanted to experience more stuff. So me and four high school mates just quit our jobs and said we'd move somewhere, and we picked Canada, which is kind of the closest to not being the US, but kind of has the freedom of the Western world. So we came to Canada. And then I quit my government job, and then my friends were like, "Oh," I was kind of scared. It's what am I going to do in Canada? They were like, "Oh, just do something with the art," because I studied that in uni, but never actually graduated. I just went straight into dance, my last year in uni. So I started picking that up, and then I was kind of freaking out. So every second moment before moving to Canada, I was just trying to learn something. It's what can be financially stable? What would I love to do? So then I started looking into 3D design, and then that's when you started hitting me up, because I was really into robot design, which is what we call in the industry hard surface modeling, and I just dove straight into that, and then I really got into animation, and then I believe you were my first client, actually.
Yeah.
Which was so amazing because then I got to work with like really top-notch produced music, and it was like I got to play and like create a visual content for that. So then I moved to Canada, and it's all pretty much kind of like word of mouth because I believe I started working with Subtronics after he saw a piece that I was working with you, which I'm so grateful that you passed on my contact to his. And
I was thinking about this the other day because actually what happened is it was the merch video that you did for me, which is like hands down the best work you've done for me, and probably in my opinion at that time like the best stuff that you were doing for all your clients, in my opinion. Because what happened is I posted it on Twitter, and then it was Code Pandorum who Subtronics was already following, because Subtronics wasn't aware of my music whatsoever, but Code Pandorum shared it, who's now called Inhuman, and Subtronics and a couple of other people saw that merch trailer and was like commenting, oh, this is amazing, blah blah. And then Subtronics messaged me going, hey, who's your visual artist, or did you do this, blah blah. And I was like, oh shit, that's fucking massive for Ray. And then like part of me was like, oh, I know exactly what's about to happen. The moment I give this contact across, I'm never gonna hear from Ray again because he's gonna get so massive. And I was like, no, fuck no, I can't be a gatekeeper for that shit. So I sent over the because they hit up his team hit up my manager at the exact same time because they were like that interested. And I sent him your Insta, and the rest is history. But I'm so glad that happened, and it's amazing how far up your career went from like him working with you. Like he's like, I think it's well fucking deserved because hands down you're one of the best visual artists I've seen in like the electronic dance music scene by far.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this week's podcast. If you are a music producer and you're looking to level up in all areas, especially maybe if you're lacking some kind of uncertainty with whether you're going the right direction or not, or maybe that you've been marketing your brand and you're unsatisfied with the results and you want a professional to sit down with you and figure out exactly what your best next steps should be, then what you can do is book in a call with myself or one of the other student advisors. And from there, we can get a crystal clear plan on what you should be actually focusing on specific to your situation, because there's no end-all approach for everybody. It's always going to be specific to your situation. Whatever opportunities that are within reach to your situation, it's going to be specific to you. And so if you want to do that, you want to book that in, all you got to do is click the link in our description. It's a free call and it goes for about 20 minutes or so. And from there, we can get really specific about what your goals are, short-term, long-term. And if we do feel like you're somebody that would fit in well with Industry Set in terms of our community and you're somebody that we could help, we might not be able to. But if so, then we can have a conversation about what we're currently getting our students. With that being said, I'll see you in the rest of the podcast.
But yeah, it's super refreshing to see such a genuine human being who's like, been so passionate about your project and like you pushed it so hard. And now you're like got your own team and doing all these massive artists and bands and stuff like that. So really stoked to see how far you've come.
No, man, I pretty like I kind of owe it to you, just that contact, and like I never really would have gotten to this scene because like you found value in my work, and I just like I wanted to give put as much into this because I knew like at that point when I started like working on like your work or like in the work I'm working on right now, I knew like this was like my vocation, like my calling for the rest of my life. Like I don't see myself doing anything else other than creating visual content. And it was like super refreshing. And I was at the beginning, I was super stressed out, man. It was like,
because it's just a whole nother beast, like
exactly.
a can of worms.
And I was like 29 at the time, and I was like, I had this thing in my head. It's like, man, I should have started this earlier. Like I feel like I say this to myself, but I know this is like, I shouldn't be saying this to myself. It's like I wasted my 20s kind of like partying too much and just not focusing on just like on like the bigger goal. But now that kind of have like that clarity now, just after finding value that like, if I could create something like this and then people are kind of like resonate with it, then that's just like a big plus. I mean, like the like besides the money, like I find so much like joy in just stepping back after like a long grind and seeing the final look and just like, holy shit, I stayed up for like 5 weeks, just like end to end, and then trying to juggle that with like my day job, trying to get my permanent residency and everything. It was just like, yeah, it was kind of eye-opening. I think the move from Perth to here, I love Perth and I love Australia and everything. I just really love the snow. That's the reason why I kind of like moved here, and it's like close to the States. So a lot of my client base is like either in the States and a little bit in Europe. But yeah, it's been kind of like a roller coaster ride. So something just pops up every now and then. And I'll thank like the work with you, and absolutely the work with Subtronics, because he's kind of opened up kind of like these new avenues with some of the artists that he works with, and I get to jump on those projects, and like the big scale productions that really kind of test creative and like logical no, sorry, let me say that, really test like creative critical thinking,
right?
When it comes to like super tight deadlines. Because in the music industry, like I've noticed this as well, the timeline for like my day job is like, it would go up to like a year, 2 years for a production.
Wow.
But then these like in the EDM scene industry, everything needs to be done now, and you're known, like you're given like a week's notice, and then you have to like pump out something with quality. So after a while, I've kind of like, I feel like I've not evolved, but like created this process where I try to think of everything bad that will happen if I don't do certain things at a specific time.
Right.
So it's
That's like a thing I talk about a lot, actually. It's like it's away from motivator as opposed to a towards motivator, because towards motivators are things you're trying to go towards, but away from motivators, like what would happen if I didn't do this? Like what would happen if I didn't accomplish that in XYZ? Like in a couple of months, am I going to still be doing this, or am I not going to be doing this? So I definitely think that's way more motivating. I also I try to do this mantra every day that I got from like Lex Friedman. I don't know if you follow him on YouTube, but he's like a podcaster, and he has this mantra where he essentially thinks every morning about, if this is the last day on earth, like what would I be doing, and like what should I attribute that energy to that day. So yeah, I'm all about that as well.
Yeah. I'm curious to ask, like, I know that this is more of like questions for me, but like, how do you find, I always ask this, like, how do you find just structuring a week? Like, do you have it all planned out? Do you have it in the back of your mind? Do you have to have it in writing, or can you just like gun it out at the back of your mind?
I do a bit of the old school approach where it's, the pen and paper thing. I've gone through using, lists here and there, but I find I can never quite catch up to them. They just keep pouring out over and over, because there's so much, I'm doing so many different types of work, and I only have so many hours per day. I find it's most efficient that I just tackle in that present day, as opposed to trying to plan out the week, because oftentimes I'm never able to stay to that schedule, because so many different variables come along, things change, or some days you, like, let's say for example in your work as well, there's some days where you don't feel as efficiently creative, so you might want to feel more like putting your time and energy towards something that's like, management wise, or like, just technical wise in terms of filling out things. Like, I'm sure in like your creative work, there might be times where you just feel like, clicking for the sake of clicking and filling in details within your project file, as opposed to, thinking of the overall vision and building that out. Because there's definitely days where I don't feel creative whatsoever. So I don't force that. I work specifically on the day that I'm given. So it's like day-to-day basis. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good to know, because like I'm kind of like the opposite. I try to write stuff down. Let me just show you, like, the last time I tried to write stuff down on like a notebook. Literally, I bought this just to write down my stuff. Yeah. To like, just to get. Then I just like drifted off, started drawing stuff, and then I just I can't just write down stuff, and I feel like everyone structures and plans their day out like differently, but I find my way, I just have it all in my head exactly what needs to be done, like now, where everything is, and I feel that works for me. But I feel like there's a lot of tutorials that out there, just like, have it written down somewhere just to remind yourself. But I don't know, it's like I find,
when it comes to that level of like compartmentalizing things, I have almost like a second brain. I use either I mean, at the moment I've just been dabbling with using Obsidian, which is like it's essentially like a big notepad thing. You can make little sections in it, write down like subsections of like parts of your brain. So it's like, I don't know, I've got a section for, I don't know, nootropics, or optimizing my workflow, or optimizing my dog training because my puppy's really annoying, or like what my diet is. Like I've got all these subsections, so I compartmentalize that as like my second brain. And then what you can do within that app that I think is quite fascinating is as you can like hyperlink things within the actual entire document. So it then gives you a second visual representation in another section that shows your brain, like what it visually looks like. So it has everything connected, the dots in like a big mind map, which is like very fascinating to me, because I love seeing that visual representation of like how I'm like kind of structuring things in my head. So that's how I kind of do it. It saves me a lot of headache, because I really struggle going to sleep because I've got so many things in my head, much like how you're explaining. And so I have to get that out of my head if I'm going to sleep at all.
Yeah, no. Oh, also, like that. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up nootropics, because I've been dabbling with this stuff for a while, and I don't know. I always tell myself it's a placebo effect, but it works. I know there's like a chemical, like there's chemical functions from these like nootropic stuff, but I've become, I wouldn't say dependent on it, but I've noticed days where I've tried to not have like a supplement or like a nootropics to get, or even like Red Bull, like I think that's one thing I'm gonna try and overcome soon. It's like, it's one of my vices now. It's kind of like in the morning I have to have these to click on and turn on, but when I do click on it, like it's like I'm like
essential to your
storing,
workflow,
like getting work. Yeah, exactly. And I'm in the stage now where I'm not exactly where I want with my like work-life balance, or absolutely not work-life balance, but I've become aware now that taking this stuff is good for now, but I have to tell myself like later on I have to become more natural, just health-wise as well, because like in this in this industry, the work we're doing is just like, it's a lot of grind, and it's good for now, but thinking in like 10 years now, there's gonna be like so many health
100%.
problems. If that's something I'd want to like give a message to, is just like, take care of your health, man. Like that shit is so important. And I know I'm like a hypocrite, because I know I'll be going for another maybe like 2 years before I even try to fix my health at all. Like I've gone to a point where I don't do much fitness besides the weekends, when I can get the weekends, either like snowboarding or just that's pretty much my only thing. But when I first came here and I didn't have much work, I'd be snowboarding like every day, or like running, actually seeing outside. Now I'm getting so comfortable with just like grinding, doing a 9 to 5 job, and then a 5 to like 3 a.m. waking up, doing a meeting, and then, but in the same sense, I feel like it's fulfilling. And it's what's worse is that when I'm not working, I feel guilty. Because either I'm thinking of stuff that I'm going to be having to do either the next day, the next week, or the project that's just back your head. And I've tried to be better at it, just enjoy what you're doing, because I live in like a beautiful place, landscape's amazing, scenery's insane, people are amazing here, but just doing this grind now with like just any work. Like if you're going towards your goal, and I'm sure you know as well, it's like if you're building a business, you're going to be putting 110%. You're going to feel that, not drained, but like it's a lot of grind, a lot of grind, and it gets to the point where it's kind of affecting like your like social, not social skills, but what's it, just your work-life balance. But at the same time, I feel guilty with always wanting to always be working all the time, which is, I feel it's good,
It's definitely a
but
balance.
I know it's bad.
Yeah, definitely a balance
Trying to
of
find the
like
balance
not
hard.
feeling guilty, but also feeling fulfilled in the work by doing that amount. And I think that's what
Exactly.
really sets you apart from other creators that I met, because the moment we started working together and you were still kind of, you know, working on your creative muscle and improving in that area, despite you already had a very good like foundation, you were still putting like 150% into the projects we were doing together, despite, you know, I only had so much budget, but you would have been, I mean, my guess is you would have been working well beyond what that would have been paid for. Like you would have been putting way more hours, because you were still trying to, you know, level up your skill set while doing these projects in the whole process. So like, I can imagine it would just be like, you know, a music producer trying to collaborate with somebody who's at a high tier level. It's like, you're going to be putting in way more work to, you know, level up the playing field so you can like, you know, put out a good project. So I always really appreciated that, and I think that's like part of, at least in my opinion, I think that's part of your success, is that you were always putting 150% prior to even working with like top tier guys. You were already at that stage, and so when you actually met up with, you know, these like really high tier guys, you were already at that caliber, if not even higher. And that's how I feel like you've been able to excel so fast in the industry.
Well, I think that somewhat was attributed to when I was okay. So when I was dancing, there was a lot of discipline there, because we'd be kind of doing the same grind, just a different medium. Where, you know, after work you'd go dance until like 4 a.m. and then I really attributed this to the coaches at the time, because they were really pushing for it, because they came out of another crew and they wanted to prove themselves, and like having that skill to just like push through, just trying to get that final shot looking the best that you can, and leaving it all on the floor. That's what you always say, is just make sure you leave it all on the floor. I think I feel like that's where I got that, you know, I'm not happy until it's like absolutely perfect. So like if you see some of my animations, like I know the stuff I'm pumping out now, it's like it could be better. And right now I'm trying to find that balance of like quality over quantity. But I feel like that that dance mentality pushed through my work now, and have that kind of like discipline to push through. But in saying that, if I was to say this to another artist, like in that's doing animation, financially wise, I would say do your grind, but when it gets to like, you know, if you're having like, if your client has a low budget and you're over like giving too much, I've noticed this with other clients as well outside of yourself. They will expect pretty much the same quality and level for that same budget. So after a while, once you get, you like, if you're an artist and you're starting off, absolutely do the grind. Find the things that you love in your medium. But now evolving now, there has to be that kind of like give and take. So I would still give like 150%, but know the limits of like, you know, if I'm going over like 50 hours over the set time, is it worth it, or is it like, are you doing this know to distinguish whether you're doing it for yourself or you're doing it just for the money? And I don't know if I don't know if this makes sense, but like, just take a step back every now and then, and just make sure that there is value in your work, because I remember days where I'd be like looking at this one model, it just didn't look right, and I would just try and brute force it to make it look good, and it would just like kind of like ruin me, because then after a while you step back and see it's only on screen for like 1 second and you wasted all that time. So that saying again is like, work smart, not hard, is actually like a really proven thing. Just
I think
if I say anything like, yeah.
I think I mean a lot of people will understand that. I think that was a great explanation, because let's say for music producers, I think a lot of people beat themselves over the 0.1% of the project that nobody even hears, but you only hear it because you made it. So I mean the same thing in your sense, that half a second or second clip, that keyframe, whatever, was something that only rarely you noticed, but because you made it, you're going to hyper focus on every single little detail. But I mean that's part of what makes a really good perfectionist, is honing in on those details, because that's what really ends up at the end of the day, through that grind, that's what makes you what you are. But yeah, I think that's totally understandable.
Yeah, especially like my current current previous but current projects. It was like there was this one thing that I've noticed is like this one frame I put in so much detail into literally like 1/8 of a section of it, and it literally was on the screen for like not even a split second. But knowing I did that, I was happy, but I spent hours and hours just to get that one section. I'm trying to find that balance where it's like, move on, just take a step back, move on. If you're still not happy with it later on, come back to it. But if you have a deadline, you've got a bunch of things to do, set your time up from the beginning, like 5 hours doing this bit, 5 hours doing this bit. If you go past that, then just jump into the next bit, because these tight deadlines for like especially in the music industry and specifically the visuals in the music industry, you can't get caught up. There's no headroom to get caught up, because some of these turnaround times are like ridiculous, like 5 days to pump out like a minute video. And that's another thing as well. It really depends on the genre of music. Now I'm getting to like the specifics of like visual content for music genre. With dubstep, I've noticed it works really well if you have a lot of scenes that are kind of like fast moving. But then if you go into like chill step or like lo-fi music, then you can have like this amazing landscape vista shot that can go on for like 20 seconds and it will still suit. So there's that. It's a huge spectrum of what the like a VJ animator would do for their work. So if I'm working with someone like, I don't know, someone slow, like something in melodic, I feel like, and I don't want to just might be shooting myself here, I feel like that work is somewhat easier than another genre where there'd be like fast tempo. I can't even like imagine trying to animate to what's that genre?
Is it like
a really, really fast genre?
Is it like a melodic, like hardstyle or psytrance or something?
Hardstyle. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of blank. Like,
right.
If I try to make something for hardstyle, I know I don't want to try and hit every single beat, which is the dumbest
that's
shit.
like 170 beats per minute or 160.
Yeah. So like like another thing is like, know your audience. If you're going to create content, don't just like give it to your client and then just like move on to the next thing. Do a bit of research. Like with Jesse and Subtronics, like he has like a Facebook group and there's like his Insta and all of his socials. I would tend to like go into the comment section and see what people liked, what they didn't like, and just kind of like break down your last project to help you be more decisive on the choices you make for what you make in the next one. I tend to actually do that quite a lot, and I'd spend like maybe like 3 hours at night after like my actual job, and just read through the comments. It's kind of more, it's somewhat of an ego thing, but it really does help with what I'm gonna do next, and
Yeah.
start to try be fresh.
100%. I
Try to
wouldn't
stay
say,
fresh.
I wouldn't think it's validation. I'd definitely say it's feedback to that degree, because you're looking for, you know, how to improve it every single time.
Yeah, yeah, and I would highly suggest, if you're going into this, keep doing your research. Like, not even just research on what you're skilled at, research on like yourself, like marketing, like, you know, how I've got the worst social presence. I've noticed that as well. It's like I mix my personal life with my professional life, and I really shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But right now, I think in my specific position, I can kind of do that, because um I, I I think that I'm relatable if I'm not too like taking my art too serious, and just like joking around, and I have fun. Um, I have fun just being an idiot on social media. Um, because I think if I took it too seriously, I'd really not enjoy what I'm doing. But yeah, so
That's
what's
interesting
up?
how you said about how you research when you're working with a client. So let's say for like Subtronics, how you do that research. So just to push back on that, that's interesting, because
Yeah.
how I research for a collaboration, but that's with somebody that is doing the same creative form as me. So if I'm collaborating with another music producer, it's obviously like it's a little easier, because I can how I do it is I would imagine what kind of track they would want to make, but then I try to create it, but not like fill it out too much, so then they can still put their spin on it. And obviously I'm not going to get as close as sounding exactly the same as them, because, you know, it's your taste that separates you from another person. So it's interesting how you research based off of really just feedback and reaction based off what you give out to somebody's core audience.
Yeah, that's another really, really good point. I try to stay malleable with my art style, because you need to be adaptable. If you're doing freelance work, you're gonna have different clients, and they're all gonna have different themes, different styles. You gotta do your research, look at their background, look at their brand identity, make sure that you're hitting the notes that they expect you to hit. Because I see a lot of artists. There's two ways to think about it. If you're hiring an artist for their style, they're hiring you for that style. So always ask, like, how do you want certain things? But if you're going into a project knowing that they need it to be like either like corporate or weird and wacky, then you got to do your research. You do heavy R&D beforehand. That's one step first before I go into like another client. So say if I was working with like a collaboration with Subtronics and REZZ, I know that REZZ is like very colorful and kind of like I would say psychedelic and like very spiritual visuals, as opposed to Jesse's brand, which is like the very I don't want to say loud, but like very in your face. I hope I'm not trampling anything, but like it's really like those two brands are completely different. They'll want those styles, but then if you're doing a collaboration, you're gonna have to find a way to mix those in. So I do a lot of research beforehand before jumping into a project, and then after that, I would go into like making sure I know the processes to get to that final shot or that final delivery. So then I break down, okay, what do I need to do? I need to find these models. I need to storyboard. I need to find references. I need to find inspiration. So then I would go into like ArtStation or like social media, and just see what's kind of like in, because there's a lot of factors to take into account before going straight into the project. Also, always ask for feedback. Feedback is great, because if you don't want to spend like fucking 30 hours on something, deliver it to someone and be like, oh, I don't like that, wasted 30 hours, and they're not going to be happy if you're charging them 30 hours for something that's unusable work. So yeah, I hope I didn't go into too much of a tangent. I know.
No, we
I'm
love
just
the
trying to
tangents.
spill anything into
No,
my head.
it's more valuable information. I think there was a brief moment where I was going to interject and say, there's a saying that I've had for quite a while, and some people have been a little against about it, but they haven't really understood what I was trying to put against. But my perspective is, it's really the taste that defines you, not the the skill set, because it's like anybody can get good at a skill set. Like if let's say me and you both started a different skill set and it wasn't like visual music, we both attributed 1,000 hours each, like the same amount of investment, and both grinded it out, the outcome would be extremely different in a creative sense, because it was like your taste and my taste is very much different, but it's the taste is what defines the output, right? Because like if it wasn't a creative work, sure, it'd be very much just the same thing.
Same thing,
but it's the taste is really what defines you, because it's how people perceive the taste as being good. Because it's like somebody might like this taste as opposed to this taste,
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing as well. So with artists, is like if you're going into art not valuing what your tastes are, then you're going to be doing work that you don't like. So when I started with you, I was already into like robots, cyberpunk, or all that aesthetic. So I kind of knew what I was looking for. Then I would go and do my research. So who's the best in the industry? Like they've got like Vitaly Bulgarov. He's the shit. He's so good, man.
Yeah.
And then like just all these other artists like was Ash Thorpe, what's it? Oh man, I'm really coming to blank. I used to have a lot of this, like Ash Thorpe, Punisher on Corridor Crew. He does amazing tutorials. Just there's a shit ton of cyberpunk aesthetic artists that I used to follow a lot, but kind of evolving now. I've kind of like grown into a taste of trying everything out and seeing where my style of how I like to do certain things would what would I bring to that specific style. So you have something like hard and heavy, it'd be like demons and all that stuff. I would go in a different route and just try and flesh out a story out of it, instead of just having like a skull that's in flames. That's kind of been overdone. So just bringing like what your taste in, how you would do like a story narrative is what I would highly suggest. Like fleshing, like to new artists, like flesh out what you like, because if you really like that certain thing, you're going to do it 10 times better than someone that has the skill and that doesn't like that aesthetic. Yeah,
definitely.
And one last thing is like, if I would, what I also say is like, if you get to a point where you can choose your clients, choose your clients, because like I wouldn't want to be doing what's a good example? I wouldn't be doing something like super corporate, like just animating logos and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even though if it pays good money, I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's boring. Boring as shit.
Boring stuff. Yeah.
But on that note, I think that's a good part for the next topic, because I was going to ask. You've just explained a great way of for finding clients and picking the right clients. But on the other side, what if it's a client who's looking for a visual artist? Like what would you say is the best way for somebody to find a visual artist that's right for them?
I would mostly look at the background. I know a lot of artists can hit a lot of really good notes, and some artists would surprise you by delivering something that is completely different to their style. But if you're someone that's looking for a visual artist, speak to them face to face. See what their mannerisms are. If they're really like egotistical, then there's going to be a lot of pushback when you try to give them like notes on
feedback
stuff they're trying to deliver. Yeah. So I would there's that human factor. If you want something really good, speak to the person, have a chat with them. It could be like 10 minutes. See how they are. Really flesh out your idea to them. Give as much reference to what you want. If it's something that they already make, that's a plus as well. If you look on their profile and you like something they make, then that's a plus because they're already skilled in that set and you just want something like that. But if you want a visual artist that has the aesthetic, but they're not doing what you specifically need, really give them as much info as from the get-go before hiring them. Get them, flesh them out, like just see how they are, what their timelines are, how they work, how much they charge. Like, also, don't be tied to one artist. If you see that they're really good and their prices are high, shop around. There's a bunch of talented artists out there that, and this is like my business side thinking. And I know this is kind of like iffy. It's like, if you can find someone cheaper that could do the work, why not? Like, but really have to do your studying. There's also, I would highly also suggest, see if they would call themselves a generalist, because if you have a low budget and there's one guy that just makes robots, right? And they can only make robots. How are they gonna edit? Like, how are they gonna edit your visual to match your music or like your story or your theme or your brand? Make sure that they can kind of do that, because then you have this asset that they made this awesome ass robot that all your budget went to that, but then you had to have no one to actually use that asset. So you need to find like an editor. You'd have to find like a compositor. Then you have like your those are like the main ones. I know there's like specific ones, but make sure you do studying beforehand. If you got low budget, try to find a generalist. What we call in the industry is a generalist, someone that can kind of do everything from start to finish. Those are the kind of like the best ones. The downside is that they're not really good at one specific thing. They could be good at like making robots and then like can kind of edit stuff. If you're hiring them, that just be aware of that, because they probably can't take it all the way from start to finish. If you are a big company and you're looking for a visual artist and you have money to spend and you like this specific artist's piece, grab that. Just know what you need to get that final shot. So you have like, there would be artists that have specific disciplines that would be really good at compositing only, but they can't do 3D. They'd be doing just like timeline editing, but they can't composite. So that's that overall, I would say, if you have low budget, find a generalist. If you have a big budget, just know what you need, or find someone that knows what you need. Because I know a lot of producers, and this happens a lot in the industry. There's a lot of producers that would hire someone but don't know exactly how they do what they do,
how they operate,
and then that person, and then they take advantage of that producer delivering something that took them 20 minutes and charging.
Or if it was a past client's work that they just framed off as a new thing and just said, it took me 60 hours. They already did it.
Yeah, dude, that's so bad, because you could potentially get sued if you're taking if you don't do your research before trying to find a visual artist. They could literally give you nothing or something that's already been copyrighted. And
that actually happened to me, but not in the sense that I was buying the work, but somebody had ripped our visuals and put them into put them onto like some website to buy, but it was just like a loop, like a VJ loop. And then I saw I was just scrolling through my stories just so randomly, and this guy that I follow, and it was like he was in the audience and he was filming this guy playing, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's REZZ visuals of like robots. And I lost my mind. I was like, that stopped me playing there. How that's like in Europe. What the fuck's going on? And I was like, somebody's using like our visuals. And then I reached out, and it turns out it was like some VJ guy that was working at that event, like that festival club. And then the club I just took it from this place and thought it was like, he didn't know that it was somebody else's. He just bought it. So it's like, I almost went like lawyer on his ass. I was like, you can't be fucking but it turns out the international artist had no idea what the fuck was going on. So
so that's how it ended. Oh shit, I do remember this. I remember you sending that. I get see, I'm not angry anymore if everyone rips off my stuff. that kind of does say to me that it's like, oh, it's good enough for somebody else's taste. That's great. But at the same time, yeah, of course, you don't want somebody else to use something that your client paid for.
But also using it in the wrong way.
On.
Like, it wasn't meant to be used as a VJ loop, you know? So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, like on that topic, you're talking about, like, you know, what type of visual artist to find based on budget and everything, which I think that's some really great information. But
yeah, ArtStation's great. A lot of artists do define what their skill sets are. I would just get very familiar with the visual terminology. So I mentioned it before. Generalist is great. Compositors are people that kind of like put the final shots together in like either Nuke, After Effects, or Premiere. And then you have a lot of these very specific talents that are like a modeler or like a simulation artist, or plot simulation artists, or set designers, or lighting artists. You just gotta do a bit of research beforehand. But generalist, the terminology generalist is what I would highly suggest. If you're looking for someone to do your visuals, try to find generalists. They can usually do everything from start to finish. Instagram's great also, but pay attention to like the following and the audience, because you'll find someone that has like 200k followers, or like even 50k followers, and they won't hit you. They won't take a second look at your DM.
yeah,
100%. So it's hard to find there. Another one would be like word of mouth. So if you know someone that has had great work, and if you like that work, you don't want to kind of like poach them, but like you would kind of like want to just ask, like, does that artist know someone, or can like point me the right way? If you know one, don't just hire an artist. Maybe if you can find an artist and they can't work for you, ask about what they do, how, like, get some info from them. It's like, what should I be looking for, like how I'm doing right now, just giving you like just like brief notes on what you should look out for when you're hiring someone, and specifically in the visual scene. Yeah, just generally just do your research. So Instagram,
I think that's really really good information there, because I think, sorry to interject, but I think a lot of people they don't think about that whatsoever. They'll just go into the conversation saying, hey, really like your art, how much do you charge? And that's it. And then if they push back and it's too much, that's the end of the conversation. And so they didn't even get to learn more about what they should be asking, or what they should be looking for, which I think that's a great raised.
Yeah, you could get really gypped just because of their portfolio looks great. And this happens like in my day job as well. We hired like some contractors. Their portfolio looks amazing. But when we got into the conversation of like deliveries and all that stuff, we found out that what were they pumping out for the amount that we were paying them for was nothing compared to their portfolio. So keep that in mind. If you get a chance to test them out, like do like maybe $100. Like, how much can you do for $100? I wouldn't suggest this because like the artist would just like not do it. But if you can do it, it. Test them out just to test the waters. You don't want to be like 2 weeks in, they've spent 100 hours on something, they deliver it to you, and it's nothing like what your brief says, or it's like really really bad. Also keep up. Do milestones as well. So if you're doing like a month-long project with an artist and they need to pump out like 5 songs worth of visuals, and you've given them the brief, keep up to them every two days. Just ask for updates, like where are you at, where are you planning to go, like when do you think this will be done. It is kind of micromanaging, but if you're the one paying for it, I would highly suggest you be on top of that. And if you're really busy, see if you can hire someone to keep up with that. So that's where like producers and project managers really come into play. And also hire people that you kind of like trust, because yeah, that's it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. And this is like art is like a commodity that it's not one price defines one set of visuals as something else like Beats headphones. Like you're buying it because you know exactly what it is. With art, you're going into it kind of like blind, so you want to try and find out as much beforehand, set yourself up, and know what could go wrong, like what the worst case scenario would be. Just don't go in hoping to get like a like perfect piece every time, because then yeah yeah it gets art's tricky, man. Like you can get the worst and best things for the most fluctuating amount of money. It's really tricky to navigate through this, so do your research.
Yeah, I think a lot of people also make that mistake too, and there's a lot of scams going on as well with artists scamming. Like, I mean, more the lower ends of like visual artists, not any of the top tier, obviously.
Yeah,
because that would just be stupid. But I've noticed more so the visual artists that have kind of got into visual art just for the sake of making money, and they are somewhat aligned with, let's say, a specific niche or niche. I don't know how to say it, but let's say it's for the music industry. Like I've seen some visual artists who were, I don't know, they were somewhat associated somehow, and then they got into visual art, and now they're doing, artwork and out now teasers and coming soon trailers, whatever. But I can pick them out quite easily now, those kind of scammy ones, because what they do is they'll make like posts on social saying, oh, I'm doing a deal right now for 50% off, blah blah, and it's like, I've worked with so and so and so and so, and then you find out later that they have not worked with so and so, and that person rejected all of the art that they made for that person, or it's like maybe it's fan art that they were making and it wasn't actually for that person. So I've seen a lot of people fall prey to those things. Luckily I never was one who fell to that, but because I was always working with you, but I've definitely seen a lot of people who have fallen for that.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. If you're not careful with that actually happens quite a lot in the industry. Again, just do your research, do an R&D, just get familiar with how the artist would talk, or like if they're putting out, that's another red flag. If they're talking to you and they're not tailoring the way they talk to you, and they're just like throwing out a bunch of words, a bunch of like really long technical words, they're probably trying to throw you under the bus. Because like most artists that are professional and that you'll get good quality, they have worked with people before, so they know how to talk and like how to portray, like not portray, how to present their work to you, and they probably have structured a way to have constant clients, so those are more reliable than someone that's just like saying like, oh yeah, the particle sim, blah blah blah. And you're thinking in your mind, you're thinking like, holy shit, this guy must be legit. Like like he's throwing out words I've never heard before. I'm gonna pay him like 10 grand. Turns out they just hired somebody else on Fiverr.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So another topic I'd really love to go over, and I'm sure you'd be very keen to go over this, is your thoughts on AI's impact on creatives at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is a huge topic, and I've asked so many people on their thoughts on this. Okay. I'm not going to try and trample anyone. I'm just going to be honest with like my thoughts on it, because it is a very disruptive technology right now, and it's on all, it's coming to all parts of not even just like the creative industry. It's going into like normal daily menial jobs as well, where you have like ChatGPT that can pump out like proper word structured emails that are very informative. I would also, just a little segue there, ChatGPT isn't always perfect 100% of the time.
Yeah, definitely. I broke it the other day. I was asking for a really specific meal plan that had very specific calories using very specific foods.
Yeah.
and it just stopped working after like 10, 20 takes of me saying, no, don't use green beans ever again in these meal plans. And it just like broke.
Yeah, just know what AI can do. I think it's very exciting. If you've seen some of the work that it just pumps out in like 2 seconds, like Midjourney and DALL-E and all that, that is insane. Like work, it's scraping through the internet. With saying that, there's the stigma as well with actual art, like real life artists, that oh yeah, it's gonna take away our jobs. And it, like, for a while I was thinking it's like, well, if it's gonna take your job, just diversify, learn something else. But speaking to veterans that have done this for like years, that have like kind of like the push to learn something else new. This is like their bread and butter. I came a bit more empathetic in that sense. And I posted a bunch of stuff on stories like, oh man, if you're not diversifying your skills, I was kind of a dick when I was doing this. It's like, if you're not diversifying your skills, then you shouldn't be in that industry anyway, blah blah blah. I really retracted that like instantly, speaking to someone that is in the industry, and that's like the only source of income. And they have like kids to feed. They've got mouths to feed, they've got mortgages and all that stuff. That's like, I'm very empathetic, but I'm still like 60%. Like, if this is like how credit cards took over like hand money, it's gonna happen. Try to diversify. If there's other artists listening into this, and you are stuck in that one specific medium of like what we call like matte painting, which is like just a digital matte painter. Yeah, 2D art. If you can only do that, be careful. There's stuff that can do it 100 times faster, 1,000,000 times better in that way. Then there's the whole copyright thing where everyone says that it's taking the style of another artist, right? That's what normal artists do. Like, that's what real life
inspiration.
Artists do. It's
That's
inspiration.
a very good point.
It's just doing it. Yeah. It's just doing it super fast.
Yeah.
Like, and 100 times better. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm all for AI. I know it's very disruptive, and there is going to be a lot of people out of jobs very soon, because you saw how the curve went from like when the NFT space came in, like everyone was jumping into that, and then AI came in with like Midjourney and all that, and then there's like that, so that it's been exponential growth ever since then, and it's been very recent. Imagine if the AI was in that period where NFTs were present, like no other artist would get anything. Like, no real artist would get anything, because they're trying to compete with someone that's doing AI art. That being said, there is AI art right now that's doing full-on animated art, and I'm not afraid of it, because I know I have value in the way I stylistically like to do certain things that I know AI can possibly do in the future, but it won't be able to hit every single note of like a brief that a client gives me. There will be new occupations in the future where there will be text to AI, specifically text to AI artists that don't know how to do any artwork, like actual artwork, but they are really good with language and know how to
use the tool AI most effectively.
Yeah, exactly. There's like, as an example, like if I went to Midjourney and just typed out something, right, I would get a good result. But then there's these other artists that know exactly the words. So like Octane Renderer at 4K at portrait mode, with like subsurface scattering and all that stuff, that have had history in the 3D art space, and they know all their terminologies, but now they're just using language to create that art.
I'm like, that is scary.
It is scary. That's another thing. That's why I kind of want to move into director role, because if I'm doing all this tedious work and using hours and like grinding heaps, and then this technology comes out and just obliterates that grind, at least I know now in my position as a director, like my vision
It's secure.
is
Yeah.
still paid for, is
Yeah.
secure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever get a chance to move into that position, have you done your due diligence and like know what you're talking about, know the processes, know the pipelines, know what to look out for, the people to look out for, the skill sets that you need, definitely move into that role. And then saying that as well, I still love to create art. Like I would still stay up until 3 a.m. doing my own personal piece,
Yeah.
or a client's piece that I know that no one else can hit the notes correctly. So I'll jump in and do that bits. But AI, man, it's huge. Even in law, like it's in law now. Like people
Yeah, I've
create
seen
full on
the don't pay me
full
bot,
on
whatever, I
cases.
could be a lawyer. I think it's called
Yeah, dude,
pay
and
me or something.
they could scrape the internet for all the use case sorry previous cases, all the laws, all the contradicting laws, and then weighing out the best bit and creating a perfect case for you. Oh man, it's scary. I would always say diversify your skill set. Try to find something that you love and know try to be the best at it so that try to be the best at it so that people know that no AI can do what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think
yeah.
what I'd also like to ask you about is because obviously we're in the part of AI where it's all about like it's optimizing for language and stuff like that, and there's somewhat of the visual side with Midjourney and stuff like that. But I'm curious, in your opinion, how far off do you think we are from it being able to create visual properties?
Guess what it is and divide that by 10. That's how exponential growth is. Because there's developers out there that have already created the things that you're thinking about, but just haven't unleashed it yet. They're refining it, so it will just keep coming. If you think it's 5 years, it's probably like half a year, like
Right.
5 months.
Right.
So
that is scary.
just always to be on top of it. Be aware of the industry as well. If you're seeing AI art out there and you're against it, just know it's not going anywhere. It's gonna take jobs. It will make life easier for some people. It'll at the same time it'll make it harder for very niche.
It's funny. I made a status a couple of months ago, just when Midjourney kind of came around, like hyped, and I posted saying, I'm curious what the impact like this kind of visual AI is having on the NFT space, because I wasn't very into NFTs, but because I never really understood. I mean, me and you were going to do something like that a while back, and we just kind of didn't. But I mean, I never understood it for whatever reasons, but this guy commented saying, the AI will never replace humans doing art, blah, blah. And then he posted his visual art, and I was like thinking, and then he's comparing it to like a really bad AI photo, saying his is better. And I'm like thinking, but that took you 10 hours. This took 1 second. And you also like, comparing a really bad one, and somebody else just like replied with like an insanely good AI one. And he was just like, yeah, I'm out.
You just it's awareness in your field, man. Just know what your competition is. You just have to be on top of it. Like you could just grind away and make beautiful work. Just know someone out there or something out there could do it a million times better. So try to upskill, diversify, make sure that you represent value in your work. So yeah, it's people out there that are buying artwork already know the scenery and know how to navigate it. So I'm not saying it won't take all jobs, but there is still value in the human side of generating art.
The funniest thing I've seen
Yeah.
The funniest thing I've seen with like AI taking jobs is OnlyFans, because somebody did somebody did an experiment where they were making OnlyFans content with Midjourney, like not like
Shit.
sexual like anything showing, but like actual the
Yeah.
same woman, and it made it look so
Yeah.
realistic that people were signing up to it, and like he was marketing it on like TikTok and stuff,
That's wild,
and
right?
Tinder and stuff, and people were paying for it, and it's like AI generated.
It's
Nobody even
wild
knew.
that
Yeah.
yeah, it's coming to like AI is going to a point where it's like that uncanny valley is just not there anymore. Like it could be real. Oh, let me show you something, okay? I use this in presentations.
Yeah.
And it's called NVIDIA Broadcast, and it wigs me out because it works really well. I'll turn it on right now,
I
but
think I
let
know
me
what
know
this is. Yeah.
let me know if you can tell when I'm looking at you,
Okay.
because it does it really well. So right now I'm not looking at you because like you'll see it here. Yeah, it's
Right.
so there's
It's like
applications
some
for AI
overlay of it.
everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're that one, this one specific, like this is very.
Have you had that
very,
running
very
the entire
specific.
time, or was that just then?
No, fuck no.
Oh.
No, see, that I did it in my day job as well,
Yeah.
and it wigged people out because I would let it. Humans know eye contact. There's this, yeah, there's
Subconsciously.
this whole thing subconsciously, and if I'm doing like a presentation.
Oh, you just got muted.
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Oh.
I thought I was trying to turn this. Let me turn this off because it wigs out. So I did this because I was doing a presentation on for this podcast for this tech company that's doing a bunch of podcasts, industry skilled artist podcasts. It's called Spark, and I thought like I was learning, like I was looking up how to be better at public speaking, not saying I'm a lot, and I came across this and I turned it on. And then when we were doing like practice runs of the presentation, um, I turned it on and everyone started noticing it. Like, Ray, what's up with your eyes? It's like wigging us out. So just know when to use AI. It's like people will call you out. Humans are not like everyone's knows that AI is out there, and you can still pick it out. You'll come to a point where you can't tell anymore, like how you mentioned the OnlyFans model. But like if you're trying to use it now and try to do it in a malicious with malicious intent, like if you're selling AI art that that you made in like 2 seconds and try to pass it off as something that took you hours and hours, people will call you out. People don't try to sneak by this because a lot of people are smart. Yeah, if you're a visual artist out there and you find like if you're trying to create art and think it's like, oh, he just wants to still pick, I'll just make AI do it, they'll likely chance they will buy it off you, but know that there are some people out there that will call you out and then there'll be a bad name. So just make sure you're doing what you're doing with good intentions.
Yeah. And I feel like
I
feel like the music industry isn't too far off as well, because I think
auditorially,
like I think that's going to be like a couple years, and I think it will just be dialed in like perfectly to the point of kind of like where like it won't be like sonically, like you could as a music producer you'd be able to tell the imperfections, just like as a visual artist you can tell the imperfections in some Midjourney pieces
exactly,
and why they aren't what they should be. And I think that will be the same thing for like music, where it will only be like music producers in that creative world will be able to like tell very easily that, oh, that's like easily AI generated. But I think the vast majority of the public won't be able to tell the difference. Like they're like, oh wow, that just sounds like Calvin Harris. Like
exactly. And it's scary because what it like the crowd's demands outweigh the one perfectionist that can pick it out. Like the masses will either demand or just not care. And their voices will then drown out any concerns that
Yeah.
one producer that pick it out.
I don't
It's
think it
scary
will.
because like yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you
Sorry.
saying?
So no, you go, you go.
I was just gonna say, I don't think it will overtake the industry for a while though. Like it will come out, but because the thing is,
Yeah,
the music industry is already extremely oversaturated. Like there's too much of a supply of
yeah,
music. Like there is new music dropping like
Mm.
every second basically, because like it's
yeah,
such a big thing now. But I think the AI on music creation, I think it will only take over when that gets to kind of like the 2.0 version, just like how ChatGPT is going to enter
yeah,
that. And I think when it reaches
yeah,
that, that's when it will be a serious issue because it will be better than
yeah,
most people. And at that point, it's
yeah,
like it's not even going to be whether like are you better than the AI or not. It's like the AI can bust that out in a second and is better than most people.
yeah,
So
yeah. I have this kind of like not theory, it's just like foresight that it'll come to a point where people are holding up signs in festivals like no AI music, no AI.
yeah, true.
Like it will be divided. But you will, like in art and in music, you will find perfectly pitched, perfectly drawn art that just blows human out of the way.
Yeah,
And like there will be value for that. But then I think uh, there'll be a whole culture behind that. But at the same time, there'll be opposing sides that will be, I wouldn't say purist, but there'll be like people that demand the human element to these productions, which I highly am hopeful for because we're kind of like humans are a miracle. Like, I don't know if you ever watch this YouTube channel called In a Nutshell or Kurt's Gazette. It's fucking amazing. It explains like, I know I'm really segueing here, but like how really dumb cell life forms can create very large, complex, very like organisms like us, like full on thinking. Like, how at what point is a dead dumb thing become intelligent, or what our definition of intelligent is like humans? I would highly suggest watching Kurt's that. But yeah, we're a miracle, and there's a lot of things that will try to question our stance in the universe, but we'll always, I feel like human progression will always trump anything artificial. We've been here for millions of years.
yeah.
But
Well, that's the
yeah,
thing. Everyone's just going to get to that kind of director phase where instead of being the creative, you're more so just directing and using AI as a tool more than
as a
anything.
tool, yeah.
But you're still, having some sense of creativity and just directing which way it goes.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to touch on before we go to a close, because I don't want to take too much of your time.
Yeah.
But did you have any like productivity hacks or like ways of optimizing your time? Because I know we've had conversations in the past of like
Yeah.
kind of optimizing your workflow or time or mindset, whether that's through like nootropics or like a certain routine. Do you have anything like that going on?
Yeah, so supplements right now it's supplements, but I feel like it's a placebo effect, and I know if I just go off it, I'll still produce. Probably not as intense, but I'd still produce that. I would suggest nootropics if you're really coming to a blank and you're finding low energy in no like thoughts and like creatively. I would suggest, but do your research. There are some that will give you headaches. There were some that is just like just doesn't work. Another productivity is take note of how much time you do certain things. Like I've come to the point where I track, not write it down, but like I know in my head how much certain things should take, just because I've paid attention to like either my keystrokes or like
Right.
just how I break down a scene and how much should be spending time on that scene, based off the brief. Just break it down, what you're doing a day, find out what's taking the most time, and see if you can cut that time in half. Either like just looking up tutorials on how you can do certain things faster, or just try to test yourself on like, oh, can I cut this out completely? just be very aware of how your workflow and your flow state. I know it's hard to do that when you're in the flow state and you're just like in it, either brute forcing it or you're just like finding like awesome stuff. Another thing is pay attention to the brief. If you're doing this as a living, always ask. You might not always want to ask for feedback, but just make sure what you're doing is what your client needs. Red Bull, I would I wouldn't suggest that. Don't grind. Don't grind. Do not grind. I mean, do not grind to the point where it's destroying your health. I've had nights where I would be 6 Red Bulls down just because I'm trying to get a deadline in, and I did make those deadlines, but at what cost? Like, you don't want to push yourself where it's just like getting heart palpitations or just like getting no sleep. Ask your client, hey, this is huge. Can I just like, is it possible to have 2 days off? And if you can't, ask for help. Like, honestly, if there's no budget for it, just like either step away, or if like there is a budget for it, find someone that can help you with the workload. And that's what I'm trying to find now. It's like, before last year, I'd do productions pretty much all by myself and just like spend so much time. But now I've come to a position where it's like I can bring on people that I trust. I know how they work. I know what I would want from them, and they hopefully they know how I work. Just like, don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of freelancers out there are going to be purists and say, I'm going to do this by myself, and that's totally fine. If that works for you, that's totally fine. But if you're really in deep, just take a step back, man. Like, it's not worth your health. I know I'm being hypocritical because like look at my face, man. I'm pale as fuck. And I know this works for me, but that's one thing I would say. Just know when to ask for help.
Yeah, I think it's important to know when to scale that side of the business or creative side whenever you can, because
exactly.
I mean, how many people is on your team now that works under you as you being the director now?
The last production, I think we have between 13 to 15 people. Yeah. And going into that role, I learned a lot of just how to direct people, just like know the egos you're working with, know the characters you're working with. Don't be inviting. Let them want to work with you. If you're pushing back too much or not giving enough, like set an example of how you want them to work. If I'm just gonna give feedback and not like work with them to get that final look, they're not gonna give me 100%. And explore with them together. I know it takes a lot of time if you're doing if you've got a huge group and you always have to like give feedback everywhere, it's going to be draining on you. So let them know that you're not always available as well. But it's been phenomenal, like bringing on these artists. There's some artists that I built a team that complemented each other. So there'd be like a person that's really good in After Effects, and then this guy only really does modeling. But if I like merge them together and find an editor, they could really harmonize, and then they start collabing with each other without your direct attendance. And that I find that magical when you
must be really satisfying.
Oh yeah, and then they just like they come back to you as like, hey, me and so and so did this, and we found it could be better done this way. Which went against with my thing, but like I love that because then like they're teaching me new stuff, and it's just like I find that really magical, and I've always wanted to get to that point where these artists are making beautiful stuff on their own, and it's like I don't have to like micromanage every little thing. They just like, and they present new ideas and new refreshing techniques that I then myself take on and bring that. Now we're all just like leveling up and skilling up, which is amazing. Like like it's the best thing. That being said, know when you're being taken for a ride, because there's this, oh man, there was this one artist that just overpromised and did not deliver. And it will happen. And yeah, just know how to manage it. And if you don't know how to manage it, find people that have had exposure or experience in that's something that you haven't doing.
Oh yeah.
Just know there's people out there. You just don't rely on yourself too much when unless that works for you. So everyone works differently. Yeah.
And so one last question to close this out. What is there to expect from you and your team this year?
Yeah.
Anything you can reveal?
Yeah. So my direct team, we're taking on a few bigger projects. And there's some new mediums and big screens that we're hoping to jump in. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's some big productions in place. And also in my day job, there's just some big installations, some really new advanced tech that we're really diving into. Somewhat AI as well. We're taking advantage of AI, but we're not. That's something. If you're using AI, don't let it be the main element, because
just as a tool,
you have to rely on it as a tool. Use it as a tool. But yeah, my main kind of focus right now, because it's kind of like my baby, because it's building up the brand with Subtronics, because we got a few really big productions that we have in play, and just really want to skyrocket and see how far this goes. So that's like my main bread and butter. But my team specifically, I'll not hand off jobs, but find jobs for them, because there is like grace periods where there's nothing really on the tours happening. So I find them jobs of the people that have hit me up. Unlike, I go through my like business emails, and there are people
right. So like ad hoc basis, you're finding some other clients here and there.
Yeah, exactly. So which is great. Like, exposure for these artists are the artists I work with, because some of them don't know how to do the business side of things.
Really fucking good podcast. I'm glad we pushed through and spent some extra time on it, because we covered some like really interesting perspectives, I think, between a visual creator versus a music creator, and like the contrast and differences between, the objectives, the brief, and how, collaboration and feedback, and how that intertwines. And also, I mean, it was really great hearing your perspective on AI, because that was a really fresh take that I hadn't heard about, where things are really heading, and how it actually is kind of impacting your industry specifically, because I was only able to assume what was actually going on, but yeah, to hear that actual extent was very interesting. But yeah, man, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's been a joy chatting with you. It's great to catch up, and I love what you're doing. I watched a few of your I watched your Tynan and Ace Aura. There is a lot of value. So if you're watching this, just watch all of these videos, because if you're a music producer, it's insane. Like that, I never really listened to like podcasts from industry leaders in the music industry. But yeah, Jackson, man, you're killing it with these podcasts. Like, honestly, a lot of people will find value in this, and I really think you're really gonna go places with this, man. And thanks, I wish you all the best in your business, brother.
Thanks, bro.